Hi, my name is Tyler Rose, and I'm here with Dr. Gilai, and we're going to talk about the budget. So can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. Every year we generate an operational budget for the school district for the following school year, and there are component parts of that budget, and we've been presenting the budget across the community at each faculty meeting for home and school folks, and it's important to communicate to the city residents and the voters about the budget.
So can you speak to me more specifically about the revenue of the
Yeah,
budget?
there are several lines of revenue that we use to build the budget. Revenue are those sources of monies that come into our district, and we use those to build the budget. And on the handout that I gave you, it shows that property taxes is one of those revenue lines. In fact, it's the largest. The property tax revenue line in this year's budget is actually about $1 million less because we're actually reducing the tax levy in order to offset the local share to keep the impact on the community at zero. So that's one reduction. There also are pilot agreements that we have that generate revenue. We received $6 million in additional state aid this year, which is very helpful. We have some other revenues like rent and reimbursements and things like that. And then there's always an opportunity for a district to use either fund balance, which is money that's left over from the current budget, or reserve accounts, and we have multiple reserves. Last year we used a combination of reserves and fund balance, and this year, although we're not using any reserves, we are going to apply $1.7 million from fund balance to, again, offset the local share by reducing the levy. So the increase in revenues this year is about 2%.
Okay. Switching gears, looking at this slideshow you gave me, I'm seeing expenditure component budget, and I'm a student, so I don't really know too much about that. Could you explain that to me in terms that I would understand?
Probably a lot of people in the community don't understand it, so you're not alone in that. There are three components to a budget for a small city school district. The first one is administrative, and those are the costs associated with running the district, like the Department of Curriculum and Instruction, or the high school office, the principal and support staff, the business office, the superintendent's office. That budget line, that component of the budget, is up about 6% because we're proposing 2 additional positions to support the administration in the schools, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The second part is the capital portion of the budget. That's the operation of our facilities, it's bonding and things like that. That's actually down 8% because we've tightened our belt around the operations of the district. And the third component part, which you can see is the largest, is called program. And program are all the instructional and teaching and learning pieces of our budget that operate our district and provide a great educational program for students. So again, overall, you can see that our program budget is also up 2%. So we've balanced our budget with 2% in additional revenues and then the same in program.
Can you talk a little bit about that increase that you mentioned in the administrative column?
Yes. If you go to the next slide, you can see that the first checkpoint is 2 administrative interns. As you know, one of our initiatives this year is trauma-informed classrooms, and that's a reaction to the change in our student population over the years. And many students are coming from traumatic experiences, and sometimes that increases the behavior issues that we have in our schools. So what we're proposing is 2 administrative interns that are in the budget, in the administrative portion of the budget. One of those interns would be shared between the high school and the middle school full-time, so really it's like another assistant principal. And then one, and this is a very unique program, is an elementary administrative intern. So we'll have an intern that spends 1 day each in each of the 5 elementary schools to support the administration efforts and also to work with students. There are some other things in the instructional slide that we're looking at right now that are bringbacks. These are the good things to talk about. We're adding team leaders to the middle school, social studies, science, math, and English, some reading coaches, a behavioral coach. And we're also adding another guidance counselor at Fitchie Park School to address the same things that I was talking about a few minutes ago: social, emotional, developmental health of kids, managing student behavior, and just creating a climate that's conducive to teaching and learning.
So it sounds like we're adding a lot of people that will be really essential to this.
Yeah, even at the high school and middle school, there's a need for additional support to support student learning and the social emotional development that they need to to enjoy. And so we're proposing also an additional social worker here at OHS to work with the support staff, the guidance team, the administration. We're going to add a halftime art teacher back to the Oswego High School, some instructional technology support. We're adding a strength and conditioning coach in the weight room this summer to support student athletes. I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, that's great.
We're also adding a new boys modified volleyball program next year in the budget because, as you know, we have a really great girls and boys volleyball program here at Oswego High School, but we didn't have a modified boys team. So we're adding that, and I think that is going to help support students as well.
That's awesome. So we have a lot of sports going on in our school, and I think that one of the sports that you and I are wearing the shirt for is the unified basketball, and I think that's a great initiative that we've started here. What are we doing in terms of sports this year to help maintain the fields and things like that? Well,
in addition to some of the program things that we talked about, and I'd love to talk about unified sports in a minute as well, but we have to maintain our facilities, and we have a really great facilities team in our district. Our buildings and ground staff is tremendous. But we felt that there was a need for an additional grounds worker to maintain and groom the fields, to mow lawns at schools, to make our schools look really nice. And so we're proposing an additional grounds worker. In addition, we're also bringing back some library clerks that were cut 2 years ago in the budget so that librarians can start teaching again and not spend most of their day signing out books, doing reshelving. The unified sports program that you just mentioned and that we're both sporting their clothing today is a new program in our district this year that goes to our very inclusive philosophy. And that is a basketball program that's across New York State Public High School Athletic Association that has school districts developing competitive varsity teams that pair students with disabilities with typical general education students on the same court. And this year we have unified basketball. And today is actually the senior night game, our home game, and it really is a wonderful opportunity. We've built some nursing support into the next year's budget for that because some of those students who might need some nursing support as part of their individual education plan, we need to provide that for them when they're going to away games and even at practice. So we have some hourly nursing support in there as well. And the last bullet on that page is going to all the things that we'll be talking about in the next show, and that's school safety and security, enhancements to school safety and security that may include an additional resource officer.
Okay. So one thing that is very prominent for upcoming seniors, so kids that are juniors right now, is they're applying to the New Visions program. And I know last year there was kids that were left out because there wasn't enough spots. So what can we do to improve on that?
Yeah, it's always a delicate balance when it comes to any career technical education program. And New Visions, as you referenced, is one of those CTE programs. We have CTE programs that enhance opportunities for students to get to graduation, but we also have CTE programs that enhance the ideas that students might have in terms of career preparedness or readiness. And New Visions is one of those things. It's a high demand program. It's also a pretty expensive program, but we did have a desire to enhance that. So we're adding 5 additional new CTE program slots for New Visions alone, in addition to some other CTE programs as well.
So can you talk about any other additions that we have coming to our schools?
Yeah, I think that it's really important to talk about the fact that we need to start replacing musical instruments. In a district our size, with a music program as great as ours, there are some big ticket musical instruments that need to be replaced every 10 or 20 years, like huge mallet instruments here at the Oswego High School, or tubas, things that are district owned and need to be replaced, and we haven't done a very good job with that. And so there's money built in for the replacement of large musical instruments. There's money in here to support some hardware that's needed at our theater, which you know is so great. And we're also dedicating some money this year to start replacing classroom furniture across the district. In fact, $100,000 in this budget is to start taking a really close look at the classroom furnitures in our 7 schools and start replacing it so that the teaching and learning space is better. Some additional weight room equipment, and also some additional money in here to provide supervision at games.
Okay, I think that's a very important thing to talk about is the supervision at games because sometimes our students get a little into the games and the crowds.
They get a little rowdy. Hockey,
especially.
Basketball, football. Well, we only have 2 security officers in our district, and they work really hard. One of them is assigned here at the Oswego High School, and they're offered all this overtime to provide supervision at sporting events and other events across our district. But sometimes they're not available. And we believe that, teachers know students best. And so we provided some money in this budget to provide hourly stipends for teachers to help support safety and security and just general supervision at events like that.
So it sounds like a lot of great changes are coming. Can you talk about the impact it'll have on our community members?
Yes. We're in a unique position right now. You probably don't remember, but a few years ago we went through some pretty difficult financial times. We made some real significant reductions in our budget, and very methodically we're starting to bring things back to rebuild the district in terms of the sport and programs for kids. The board felt that now was a good time to try to minimize the local share on the budget by reducing the tax levy, and so we're going out for a 0% tax rate increase in this budget. With all these things that we're adding back, we're actually going to use $1.7 million in fund balance to help us do that. So for example, if your parents had a $100,000 home, this year their tax bill would have been about $1,427. Next year, it would be the same amount.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will like the sound of that. Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about before we wrap up the show?
I think that I just want to remind certainly the community and the voters that on Tuesday it's really important that they exercise their right to vote on the school budget. In addition to voting on the school budget, there are a couple other propositions. One is the really important work of replacing our buses, and so there's a proposition in this year in the budget for the voters to approve the purchase of 6 additional school buses. And that is important because we're creating a bus fleet that's very safe for students. And we do that by retiring our aging buses each year, selling them at auction to generate some revenue, and then purchasing new buses to replace them that are nearly maintenance free, and we receive aid on that purchase. So it's a responsible cyclical replacement of our buses that's really, really important for our district and for the safety of student transportation. And we are going to vote on Tuesday from 9 to 9 in 4 voting places across the community. And we just really hope that folks turn out and vote.
Yeah. So you heard it here. Make sure you go out and vote on Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with me today.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time on the Dean and Dayton Show.